I started off today thinking about China and how what's happening in China concerning the freedom of the people living in Hong Kong and the billions of dollars being made by the basketball players in the National Basketball Association. Just 2 days ago, I recorded a short story. I did it under the title "Dear LeBron James," and in fact, if you go on to my site, you can see that. It's a story I wrote 20 years ago because I loved Michael Jordan as a player. He was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. His dominance and his just sheer will to win. And at the same time, I was disappointed that he wasn't more political. Here he was, the wealthiest of all the black athletes. Here he was, the most powerful of all the black athletes. But being in Chicago and being, from where he's from, he was more guarded. He wasn't political openly. And he avoided that for the sake of his bottom line, which is one of the crises, I think, of the United States of America. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how it could be, how it could have been. So here we are today. Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, has sent out a tweet and it quickly erased it because he didn't realize the ramifications, because he's the GM of a sports team and he's not an intellectual. And this is another huge problem we have, right? Our nation is now being run by morons who have read nothing, know no history, don't understand the balance of power or nations or what's going on in the world. And they rip off tweets. And you know who's the tweeter in charge of ripping off tweets? The orange guy in the White House. So the GM of the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, sent out a tweet saying, he supported the protesters in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, they are protesting because since 97, when the transfer of power of Hong Kong went from the British, who had colonized it, back to the Chinese, there were sets of rules about how it was going to be there. They had grown used, it seemed, to the free market economy and the, shall we say, democratic principles, although I don't know how much of those there really were. It was a pretty corrupt place when I visited it many times. But still, at least free marketization and democracy in name existed there. And now, as these things are being encroached upon, the people who grew up there are protesting. They were born in what they perceived of as a free country in 1996, or a free city-state, if you will, in 1996. And now all of a sudden, they don't feel that that's the case. They feel that there are a lot of China-sized restrictions coming down the pike. So they have been protesting, first as the umbrella protesters. They went out with umbrellas. And then slowly that has gotten louder and louder, and now the Chinese reaction has begun. Well, the Chinese are not happy about the general manager of the Houston Rockets deciding that he is going to enter the fray, because they know how much money is coming out of Chinese pockets and going into the pockets of players in the NBA and the NBA itself. This is a direct collision, you see. What do we do when we live in a free society and we want to sell our products to a society that we think of as not free? Well, we do a lot of things over time, it turns out. In India, we want Coca-Cola and Pepsi there, and India says no. Indira Gandhi, and during the building stages of this new country, tries to remove them, and very quickly that changes policymaking arms of a lot of places, and makes one wonder why so rapidly after that type of decision making Indira Gandhi was assassinated. It also brings us to the problem that Kobe Bryant is making tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, in China. Maybe Harden is too. Maybe Westbrook is too. Maybe LeBron is too. Maybe, a lot of these players are too. The Houston Rockets had Yao Ming on their team, and so the China connection was very strong with them. And they took Jeremy Lin after Lin's sanity, even though that deal was a horrible deal. Everybody joked that Jeremy Lin, the kid from Stanford, was better at negotiating than the Houston Rockets. But because they knew the connection to China would be well served. Now, everybody is being asked to buy the NBA, and soon they will be told by the NBA not to say a word about Hong Kong or about freedom of expression or about human rights or about problems with how China deals with its society. They're being told that as a blanket response to the knee jerk and instantaneous hammer coming down on a wealthy millionaire from Houston who had the ignorance to burp out something. Because that's what China does. They go very extremely right at it and say, no, 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 no one is claiming that Taiwan exists. This is a one China policy. No one in the world can say Taiwan exists to us. That's what they say. And no matter how outrageous that is, we have been living under that for some time. And the Chinese know. Most Americans don't know, but should know because they're paying for it. I know because I saw it firsthand. And the Chinese certainly know that Taiwan and Hong Kong are full of American CIA and Ford Foundation and companies, nonprofit and for profit, who are agitating the state